green and gold.
Look at the 8. Go.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Good evening and welcome. We are broadcasting live. We are in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is where you can find us. And we are here tonight on location at Mason's. Mason's Eatery and Pub. And I tell you what, fantastic place. Crowd just started to trickle in about 15, 20 minutes ago. And really nice. Brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Good to have them on board as always. Thanks to our friends over there and the Green Bay Packers in the meantime. They put out a lot of different stuff today. First of all, their injury report comes out, and the Green Bay Packers obviously have David Bakhtiari on that. We'll talk more about the injury report coming up here in just a little bit, but it's just the second time ever that the Packers have played at Minnesota in week one. It's the fourth straight year and the eighth time in the last 10 seasons that Green Bay has started the season on the road. It's the fourth time in the last 5 years that the Packers have opened up the season with an NFC opponent. And of the past 39 regular season meetings between these two teams, 25 of those games have been decided by 7 points or less. The Packers have a 30-30 record in away games against the Vikings, including wins at Minnesota in 2 of the last 3 seasons now. But through 122 meetings all time, which includes a couple of postseason contests, the Packers hold a 64-56-3 edge over the Minnesota Vikings. So welcome to the program. Packers getting ready to take on the People of Purple coming up. And a big week in the sense of injuries. And the Green Bay Packers have, in comparison to what the Vikings have, Jonathan Bullard, the defensive lineman, he's got a bicep injury, and he was listed as limited today. But the Packers, David Bakhtiari, Mason Crosby, Galea, Jake Hansen, Elton Jenkins, Alan Lazard, Dallin Levitt, also, which is your safety. You also have Josh Neiman with a knee issue, Darnell Savage Jr., and Robert Tonyan and Christian Watson. Now, Watson coming back from his knee being scoped. Tonyan coming back from the knee injury as well. You also have David Bakhtiari coming back from the knee injury. Mason Crosby coming back from a knee injury. Elton Jenkins coming back from a pectoral issue and a knee injury. Alan Lazard got his ankle stepped on last week at practice. And Josh Neiman tweaked his knee. So the only guy really that could be in doubt would be Alan Lazard. He did not practice today. David Bakhtiari was limited. Everybody else, Elton Jenkins limited. Also, Darnell Savage, Robert Tonyan, both limited. Everybody else full participation except for Alan Lazard. Even Mason Crosby. It appears that Crosby should be ready to go for the contest coming up in Minneapolis this coming Sunday. So all good there. So what I wanted to do was start. We got a good show for you tonight. What I wanted to do was start off this evening and talk a little bit about demand. Not demand, but demand. As Packers fans, you always look forward to these road games and a little bit of travel. This one, though, the first game of the season. We bring in our buddy Mike from Connections Ticket Service here in the Milwaukee area. And Mike, first of all, welcome, man. Thanks for joining us here this evening. But I wanted to find out what kind of demand is there for this opener. I got to figure that Vikings fans are salivating for the Green Bay Packers. New regime. They feel like they've got the weapons to beat them. And right now, nobody's got a loss. So they're tied with them in the division. So it should be a pretty good game, right?
Well, there's no question that Vikings fans are very excited about this matchup. It's an early season game, so the weather where we look forward to wonderful September weather at Lambeau Field, these people from Minnesota that for whatever reason they built a dome, they can't, of course, take advantage of this lovely September weather. But, yeah, there's no question that the Minnesota fans are controlling most of the tickets. There's not a lot of demand from Wisconsin fans, short of people that live in the Eau Claire, La Crosse area, right, which there always is, going over to that game. But there's definitely a big demand for this game. Remember that what we typically see with the neighboring games, the Chicago versus Minnesota, is we typically see that the inexpensive tickets, the upper level seats, the end zone seats, tend to go for less than seats go at Lambeau Field because there's so much more of a spread for those games. But the premium seats, your lower level 20, 30, 40-yard line seats at Soldier Field and at the Minnesota, what do they call it now, the U.S. Bank Stadium, those go for significantly more than comparable seats at Lambeau. So, and that's only because, Wisconsin is such a blue-collar community. Everybody wants to go, but there's just not that demand for the premium seats. So we see tickets, let's say, for next week's opener against Chicago. The cheapest seat you can get is just about $300 right now, but I can get you the best seats in the house for $600. You look at this Minnesota game, and the cheapest seats are about $175, but the best seats in the house are $1,000. So look at the difference in that spread, and that's similar in Chicago too. So good seats are a better value on the road. Premium seats are a better value at home.
So I know that Packers. Just give me a sense as to Packers fans that have gotten in touch with you. Specifically in the sense of those getting ready to travel over to Minneapolis, because I know there's more than a few that have called me saying, hey, we want to get tickets. We want to go. We were looking to head over there. It's one, because the weather's nice and you can walk around on Saturday, go enjoy outside, go downtown, walk around a little bit. And two, they just want to see the Packers open up in Minneapolis.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, there's definitely some people that want to go. I mean, a lot of people are looking forward to this home game against the Bears next week on a Sunday night. But we are seeing mostly people, that are in the western part of the state, not traveling a great distance, not coming all the way from Milwaukee. But clearly we can see that in the price of the tickets, in that the price is holding very strong. I mean, right now for lower level seats, you can't find lower level seats for less than $300 right now. And even though upper level seats, like I said, are a lot cheaper, and that is rare for Minnesota. But, when it comes to Minnesota and Chicago, the markets are very similar. They get all these grand designs of that they're going to be good, and then until reality hits them in the mouth and they realize they're, a 500 team again some years as it happens. So we're definitely seeing a lot of people wanting to go over there, but not so much from the eastern part of the state. There's still just the easy convenience of going to Lambeau for that.
So give me while I got you on the phone, I do want to talk to you a little bit. You mentioned the Chicago game. Other games that are a hot ticket right now for Packers fans, I would assume maybe going down to Tampa Bay. Is that a hot one?
It's not really yet because it's much later in the year, and a lot of people from up here are turned off by the prices. That is one of the most expensive games of the year, so that's a disincentive for people to travel to that one. For many, many years, Tampa was just a Lambeau South. If you remember back in the days of the old sombrero, it was 75% Packer fans down there. I remember I went to the game down there. I don't remember what year it was. I think it was in the late 90s when Trent Dilfer went on the broadcast after the game and said, "Come on, people. Are you really going to let 80% Packer fans down here buy our tickets and take over our stadium?" That was just glorious to hear that happen and be a part of it with so many Packer fans. In fact, I think if I remember, that was the last year of the old stadium before they built the new one. But the real focus up here is the big games to start the season. I mean, we've got the Patriots game on October 2nd. That one is huge demand for that one. A lot because we have a lot of night games this year. And as the Packers are continually a favorite to win the division, to win the conference, to go to the Super Bowl, we are going to be targeted by the networks to have those primetime games. And that is to the detriment of the fan base because it's always more difficult to go to a Sunday night game or a Monday night game or a Thursday for that matter when you're traveling from a greater distance, which historically the Packer fan base does. The Packer fan base travels more miles to go to a game than any other fan base in the NFL just because Green Bay is such a small city and many people come from all parts of Wisconsin to go to the game. So those night games tend to be some of the most affordable. But since we have fewer day games, the focus is really on those games for the demand. And right now for Patriots and Cowboys, we really only have 3 nice weather day games on the schedule: Patriots, Cowboys, and Jets. And of course, the least expensive of those is the Jets, but the Patriots and Cowboys, you can't even get into those games for less than $350 right now.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the prices.
The demand is really focused on those.
Mm-hmm. You know what? One of the questions I get a lot is, what are tickets going for in London? And I was kind of perusing That's not cheap. If you want to go to London, I mean, if you want to sit in some decent seats, you're not talking a couple hundred. You're talking thousands of dollars to go there, right?
It is really crazy, and I won't profess to know anything about that market because, of course, I've only sold. I can count on one hand. I've been in this business almost 30 years now, and I can count on one hand the number of tickets I've sold in London. I've sold a couple seats for Wimbledon once. I sold some theater tickets, one other NFL game, but it's really just such a novelty for them over there, and I can only imagine that many people that don't have direct allegiance to a team in their city, they associate with the Packers. They love the fact that we're a small town team with the city owning the team. I think a lot of the international focus is to be a Packer fan, and I really think it's challenging for a person from Wisconsin to go over there to that game because as much as you want to go, man, you're going to be paying premium prices for everything. Not only are the tickets crazy expensive, but the hotels, restaurants. Honestly, from my own perspective, I wouldn't have any interest in going over to see that game because I just go to see the Packers at home. And then I go to London on a great trip on a normal vacation where I could, see and do everything reasonably, and boy, the exchange rate for traveling to Europe is totally off topic for what we're discussing. But boy, can you get a deal right now if you want to go to Europe.
Yeah, no doubt. I was looking at some of the prices there, and boy, crazy expensive. Hey, real quick,
I really think the London game is out of reach for many Packer fans. I mean, you're probably talking 10 grand for a 7-day trip for two people to go over there, and we're talking Super Bowl right there. I think it's something a few people will do, but it's not really a broad interest in that.
Hey, real quick before I let you go, the big game everybody circled for the Wisconsin Badgers on the road at Ohio State. Give me your thoughts on tickets there real quick.
Give me, if you have one other question for me while I look that up, let me just change screens here.
No, you bet.
I haven't had too much demand in the last several days, and I always like to refresh myself as to what the prices are. Give me just 1 second.
No, that's fine. I got to think that with if they get a few wins under their belt and look good doing it, and Ohio State, who seemingly in the first half of that game the other day against Notre Dame struggled, and maybe they look somewhat beatable, that's really kind of the season there. If you're able to beat Ohio State and really get rolling, that to me, if I'm a Badger fan, that might be a must-see. Not to mention the fact that, you get a chance to go over to the historic Shoe. I mean, you always want to see Ohio State come to Wisconsin, but you get a chance to go over to the Shoe. It's a drivable distance. It's only about 5.5, 6 hours, so it's not a bad deal. But I got to think that Badger fans would consider heading over to Columbus, Ohio to catch that game.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I was there just once. It was in actually not even the late 90s. It was either like 95 or 96, right as we were coming off the Rose Bowl. And I was so excited to go there. I was still a student at Wisconsin at the time. And I remember we just got slaughtered that day. It was terrible. But what a neat place to go. Absolutely a historic stadium, as many college football stadiums are. And we don't know what to make of the Badgers after last week. I mean, sure, They won 38-0, but that's Illinois State. I'm actually quite surprised that they're favored by 2.5 touchdowns this weekend against a real Pac-12 team. But yeah, Ohio State is a question mark for them. I mean, we know they're going to be good, but are they going to be national title contenders, which, of course, their fan base always expects. But look, just to answer your question, looking at tickets right now, I'm kind of surprised they're quite affordable. Now, remember, that is a huge stadium, absolutely huge. I mean, makes Camp Randall look small. But tickets can be had for under $150 there. So really doesn't seem like too out of range at all for people who want to make that trip. It's definitely a unique place to go. And with the absence of a big rivalry game on the home schedule this year, more people might decide to do something like that.
Yeah, no doubt. I was kind of thinking that you might see more than a few people travel over to Columbus, Ohio to catch the game. And I'm just kind of looking through it now. But yeah, it's not a bad deal. It's rather affordable, to be honest with you. So if you're a Badger fan, you're thinking about heading over, if the Badgers look pretty good over the next few weeks and maybe Ohio State looks fallible, that might not be a bad game to go and witness. Mike, always a pleasure to talk to you, man. I always appreciate your insight and giving us the updates as to what tickets cost all throughout. And we'll touch base again real soon, okay?
Hey, thanks a lot, Bill. Always happy to help and give people the straight information. Don't believe sometimes what the media will spout out there. They're just going to talk fantastical numbers to shock you, but it's not the truth. More often than not, tickets are affordable. Of course, there's a few exceptions to that, but if anybody ever has any questions about what tickets are really going for, just give us a call. We don't have any robots answering the phone. It's real people to talk to you and get you the straight scoop.
No doubt. Appreciate it, pal. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, Bill.
There you go. That is our buddy Mike from Connection Ticket Service. By the way, you want to give him a call. He's right, 414, and you can call him from anywhere. 414-916-8497, 414-916-8497. Not a bad way to go. If you want to head over to Minneapolis, the tickets for just to get in the building, they're not bad. A couple $100 at most. But to see the Packers at home, little more. Well, then again, the Packers, always have had a high demand for tickets as well. But if you want to see them on the road, say in Chicago, a little more expensive, go to Soldier Field. Also, Soldier Field, don't forget, one of the smallest, I think it is the smallest stadium, seat-wise, in the entire NFL. When we come back, let's get into the nuts and bolts of the Green Bay Packers. We're going to talk a little bit with our buddy from Grant Bills from the Wisco Sports Show. He's going to join us. We're going to get his thoughts as the Packers now effort towards Minneapolis coming up this Sunday. We are broadcasting live. We are in Mason's Eatery and Pub. We are in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Glad to have you tonight, and a decent crowd, as I know there's a couple of different groups in here that are doing football drafts tonight. They're doing their fantasy football draft. I just finished mine, as a matter of fact. So they're here this evening as well. Stay tuned. We got more coming up right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
are brought to you by Bud Light. They're the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We've been doing it with them for a long time. Almost 23 years, 22 years with Bud Light. Thanks so much to them for being a part of it, sending us down here to Mason's Eatery and Pub in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and good crowd on one side of the a big place here. I've never been here before. Really nice, and the food was really good too. That was the best part about it. When you come to these places, you always try something different. And did that tonight, and crab cakes were fantastic, crispy. So really good stuff. Enjoyed it, along with a Sprite right now, Bud Light later. But joining us on the hotline, our buddy Grant Bills from the Wisco Sports Show. And Grant, how you been, pal?
Great, Bill. Not as good as you. You had crab cakes for dinner and such. I'm going to have a bag of microwave popcorn because I'm out of groceries and I got to go grocery shopping tomorrow. But other than that, great. Well, I guess the Brewers have kind of made me miserable the last 2 days too. But other than my food situation, the Brewers just splendid.
Yeah, the Brewers not good, and it's almost to the point where you can just stick a nail in a coffin and call it a season. In the meantime, you got the optimism of the Green Bay Packers. You get a guy like Peter King who picked them to go to the Super Bowl, ultimately to get beat by the Buffalo Bills, but said this is going to be the year with yet another chip on his shoulder. Aaron Rodgers surprises everybody and says, see, I can do it. Doesn't matter who I'm throwing to. Do you get the sense that Rodgers is on the cusp of yet another great season?
I mean, probably because he's really good. It's just funny because the last 5 or 6 years, it's always been a chip. Like first it was he doesn't like McCarthy, so he's going to win despite McCarthy, and then McCarthy left, so he needed to prove he could do without McCarthy, and then he needed to prove he could do it again, and then they drafted Jordan Love, and he did. So the chips have just been piling up, which I guess maybe we will get to a point where there's finally enough chips. I think he's had enough chips for a while. Yeah, Rodgers is going to be great. The Packers are going to be great this year. And I'm very interested to see how the season goes because I wouldn't be shocked at all if, they win, maybe not 13 games, but get very close again. And the entire season, Packers fans are just kind of sitting around and calling your show and reading about the Packers and just saying, okay, yeah, this is nice. But, we've seen this for the last 3 years. We wonder what's looming in the playoffs. I think Rodgers is going to be great this year. I think the Packers are going to be great this year. I'm not really worried about the departure of Adams. I think this team will be really good. I'm just interested and fascinated to see how fans interpret it and watch it. I am very excited for that part of it.
So going into this contest, now we know that, obviously David Bakhtiari is still, trying to come back from injury. So is Elton Jenkins, Tanyan, Mason Crosby. You can go through that whole list. What, though, are you circling in this contest that you are looking for specifically?
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, if Al Lazard doesn't play, that would just create a really interesting situation because your number one wide receiver might be Sammy Watkins, right? Who's never played in an actual football game with Aaron Rodgers before. I don't think he played in the preseason at all. No. I try not to store those details in my mind. I try to let the preseason go pretty quickly. But if Al Lazard can't go this weekend, that's a huge deal. And to see how Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers deal with that in a hostile environment in Minnesota, and that's a tough place to play. I don't think we can state that enough. That would be really interesting. I hope that's not the case. What I'm circling, how does this Packers offensive line in their first ever game handle this defensive front from Minnesota? It's going to be loud. The pressure is going to be high. And Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter are two very large, very good defensive linemen. Dalvin Tomlinson in the middle. So I trust the Packers to get the best combination out there and to coach up their offensive line because, Bill, you know this. We've seen them do it for, the last couple of years. They just churn out a good offensive lineman. But it's going to be their first game together playing in whatever combination they throw out there, and it could not be in a tougher set of circumstances. So I'd say that's probably what I'm most excited for.
Do you think that David Bakhtiari comments earlier this week saying, he could be ready for week one, do you think that was a smokescreen?
Ooh, Bill, kind of a conspiracy. I like this. There's probably some truth to it. He's probably very close, right? I don't think he would say that if he didn't on some level believe it. Trying to think what benefit that would get the Packers. What would you get the Vikings preparing for David Bakhtiari? I guess they should prepare for David Bakhtiari, right? If they prepare for Bakhtiari and then end up facing someone else, that's a positive for the Vikings. You prepare for the best, and you see how things play out. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited that Bakhtiari is close enough, if not ready for week one, close enough to almost be ready for week one, because a couple of weeks ago, right, we thought his career might be over being put on the pup. So that's I mean, that's a positive development. Smoke screen, though, I'm not sure, but I like the way you're thinking, Bill. We need to think more critically about these things.
Well,
I love that.
I think on one hand, we looked at it optimistically and went, yay, David Bakhtiari's coming back. On the other hand, I thought, the way they are with information, the way they are about hiding things so close to the vest,
True.
why in the world would you put out early in the week that David Bakhtiari is going to be ready week one? That was my first thought, was that because Mike Clemens has said to me all along, he would be not shocked, but he'd be somewhat surprised if Bakhtiari all of a sudden just found himself game one, day one, out there ready to go against that mix of Hunter and Zadarius Smith. I tend to side with Mike on that. I'd say if he does start, I'm going to say he might be on a pitch count. If he doesn't start, I would not be shocked either.
Yeah, and this is an interesting conversation. You talk about how careful they are with information and injury designations and all that. It's funny because we listen to Fleur or we listen to Goody, who talks, more sparsely than Matt LaFleur does, and they're very tight-lipped about everything. And then Rodgers gets up to the podium and just fires from the hip, right? Like he'll be a lot more, he'll reveal a lot more, and Rodgers will go up there and speak about things candidly, and David Bakhtiari will as well. I think they've kind of reached that point with the Packers where they can speak honestly. So it's funny kind of seeing that contrast of Matt LaFleur saying, I don't know, day by day we'll see. And then Bakhtiari gets up to the podium and gives a detailed status report of what's going on. I think just the contrast of how some of the players, especially the more experienced ones, and the coaches, the comparison between how those two speak about some of this information leading into a game is really funny to me.
The Bisaccia angle in all of this, I think it's a little lost. We talk so much about the defense and what they can do. We talk a lot about the offense and will Aaron Rodgers be comfortable with his wide receiving core. To me, I think now that you've got a full complement of guys, I'm anxious to see what kind of special teams this team is capable of running.
Yeah, I mean, the preseason is not good. That's one of the very few things I actually remember about the preseason. And I watched all the games, but, you're sitting there and you're like, what does any of this mean? It's not like I'm taking detailed pages of notes about the preseason. One thing that was very clear is their special teams stunk. And it wasn't just execution or personnel. It's like they couldn't get the right number of guys out on the field,
right,
which is a little scary. We'd at least like to be able to get that right in the preseason, Bill. You miss a tackle or whatever. If we get the right number of people on the field, that would be a step in the right direction. They couldn't even do that. Special teams I think, are going to be a factor on Sunday. And I don't know if we're doing predictions, or you and Mike probably will at some point if you haven't already. But I think this game is going to be very similar to the second game between these two last year, and that it will be very back and forth. Both teams will have good moments, and it's probably going to come down to a field goal. I think it's very much a coin flip game. And, Packers fans, we've seen this in the last decade, especially. Special teams can be very influential over that type of game in a coin flip game. So we might, lay to bear Rich Bisaccia's special teams pretty quickly. And I think whether they're good or bad is going to be very evident very quickly. And if the Packers lose a game this Sunday because the special teams are bad, I'm already fascinated to think of what my show might look like the day after, and your show the day after, if the Packers lose this Sunday because of a bad special teams play. Yeah, think about that.
Yeah. Speaking of special teams, who do you want returning kicks and punts?
A tackling dummy? I don't know. Look, on one hand, I really like Amari Rodgers. I think I like the idea of Amari Rodgers, Bill. I really like the idea of Amari Rodgers. And then when he's out there, it's like he has these brain farts during a return where he forgets where to stand, or he forgets where he is. Like in the preseason, for whatever that's worth, he'll field a punt on the 3-yard line. It's like, what are you doing? Or all of a sudden he'll switch his hand position to catch a punt, as we saw last year, in a way that you're never taught how to catch the ball. I like the idea of Amari Rodgers, and I love the idea of a huge step from Amari Rodgers this year. I just haven't seen it in practice yet. So I guess I say Amari Rodgers, but I don't feel great about it. I don't know who else. I mean, maybe Toure. You could stick one of those lower-level wide receivers in there, but I guess I'd probably say Amari Rodgers, because at this point, the special teams have been so bad, I'd rather just take my chance with the devil that you know instead of the devil that you don't. And at least I know what Amari Rodgers is, even if I'm not super confident in him at this stage in his career.
All right, real quick before I let you go, who you got and why?
What was the score of the second game last year? Was it like 27-24 or 31-28? The Vikings won.
Yeah, I'm going back.
I mean, maybe it won't be that high scoring. I think one of these teams will win 24-21. Honestly, I hate to do this. I think the Vikings might win by 3 points, and I don't think it'll matter at all. Like, I see a lot of articles this week that are predicting, the game one way or another, and they're all like I saw an article today, I think it was Tom Silverstein, who had a bunch of analysts, and they picked the game, and it was like, the Vikings will win on Sunday, and Aaron Rodgers loses his throne in the NFC North. It's like, okay, the Packers could very well lose on Sunday, and I don't really think it means anything. Week one games typically aren't that definitive of what happens the rest of the year. I think if I had to bet money, I'd probably bet the Vikings to win by 3, somewhere in the low 20s. They have a new offensive coach. They have a new play caller, a new system. The Packers have all new wide receivers, so maybe one team wins 24-21. I'll probably pick the Vikings to win, by that score.
Grant, there you go. Appreciate it, man. There you go. We'll talk again later next week, I think, just to see how this score comes out and how your prediction comes out, okay?
Yeah, hold me accountable. I was going to say, we have to talk before 2-1, so you can just hold me accountable for my pick if I'm wrong. And I hope that I am. Bill, have a good rest of your show and enjoy the kickoff this week.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later. There you go. That's Grant Bills joining us for a couple of minutes on the hotline, and he's picking the Vikings. I'm going to give you my pick later on, but if you've been listening to the program during the day, yeah, I've kind of been leaning in that direction as well. And I agree, even if the Packers lose this game, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. I just want to see the Packers, and I know it's stupid to say in the NFL, but I want to see them come out and look good. And if the offense isn't clicking right away, well, we're all going to point the finger and say, see, I told you so. Guys should have been playing. They didn't. They weren't able to avoid last year's pitfall of an opening week loss. But I don't want to see them give up 24, 27, 35, whatever, because this defense, unless, of course, we're talking a scoring drive via the defense or two via the Minnesota Vikings, but because I think this defense is so highly touted, I want to see them get off on the right foot. So thoughts on that? Cassidy Hill of the Journal-Sentinel going to be joining us coming up next, talking more Packers football live down here at Mason's Eatery and Pub. We're here in Kenosha. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Eatery and Pub. We are here in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Good to have you tonight. Brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. They are the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network, celebrating 23 years as the sole beer sponsor of the network through 3 different networks and broadcasts and such. And we appreciate the partnership with our friends over there at Bud Light. Joining us now, Cassidy Hill. You can find online at Cassidy G. Hill from the Journal-Sentinel covering the Green Bay Packers. Joining us now. Cassidy, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Bill. How about yourself?
I am doing great. Let's start off with the injury report for the Packers. Quite lengthy and a lot of question marks there. I've talked the last couple of weeks about David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins. What is the likelihood, in your opinion, that you see both bookends on the field starting this Sunday?
Your guess might be as good as anybody's. I think it's a decent shot just based on their recovery. They both were listed as limited participants on the injury report today. But, we've seen them both working. Elton Jenkins a little bit longer than David Bakhtiari. But it was like once David Bakhtiari did come back a couple of weeks ago, he hit the ground running. They've both been limited in team drills, which is why they were sort of listed as a limited participant. Now that we're in the season, media doesn't get to see the team drills, so not exactly sure if either one of them even got into team drills today. They're both moving well, and Matt LaFleur was sort of vague when he said, we don't know if we'll have them or not. And I think that may be what tells me something more than anything, because he typically is like, well, we'll get him back when we get him back. I'm not looking at a timeline. Today he was more like, maybe we'll have him. He just seemed a little more cocksure about it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me wonder if he knows something we don't, but he doesn't want to give it to the Vikings yet. Here's what gives me pause about playing David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, and for that matter, Robert Tonyan in week 1. They'll be playing on turf. These are guys that are all coming back from knee injuries. And Elton Jenkins on the injury report also was listed with a pectoral. I know it's a divisional game, but do you want to put 3 guys that you really, really need for a long haul in their first game action on turf?
Right.
I don't know if I'd risk. I don't think I'd risk it.
I asked Grant Bills this earlier when word came out earlier this week. David Bakhtiari should be ready to go by game 1. My first thought was they're doing something to try and fool the Vikings because there's no way. This team is so tight-lipped on what it is they're doing. They've got the FBI that's guessing. They have no idea. So why would that suddenly leak out? I really thought that was kind of a smokescreen, and that to me was almost an indicator that maybe he wouldn't be ready come game 1. You know?
Right. Exactly. Which is why I was saying that it makes me think that there's something that report's just not really telling us yet. I guess we won't really know for sure until 3:25 on Sunday. And that goes for Tunyon as well. But, just with the way they're moving, with the way they're participating, with the way Matt LaFleur answered but didn't answer today, I think that there's a pretty, I would say 75% shot that we see one and or both of them on Sunday.
And I'm asking everybody this, so going into this contest, what are, say, 3 things specifically you're looking for in this first game, Packers-Vikings?
Very good question. One, and this is going to be a little bit of a cop-out because it's sort of an overarching answer. I want to see how the defense looks. We've built them up all off season. National narrative has built them up all off season. Jair Alexander, Aaron Rodgers, so many of them have said this may be the best defense that we've had in my time here. And so, what does that look like on the field? And this is a great week 1 test for them. Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. I mean, you're coming right out of the gate against a 3-headed offensive monster that can tear you up. How do the corners react? They're playing a lot of nickel, at least in practice, with the intent of getting Rasul Douglas on the field for the majority of the snaps. And so, they sort of switched around their defense to benefit the personnel they have. What does that look like on the field? And as I said, quite a first test. Within that, this may be like 0.1, sub 0.1A. How does Quay Walker look?
Mm-hmm.
He's been a confident professional as a rookie. He's going to be starting alongside Devondre Campbell, which may be the biggest thing to help him is that he's going to be able to play alongside Devondre. But, this is still the first game. Kirk Cousins gets that ball out quick. Dalvin Cook can shift. Quay Walker comes from a championship program and quite arguably the best defense in college football history. How does that translate to the speed of the NFL? Second thing that I'd be looking for is these rookie receivers. They're going to have to be depended upon at some point this season. How soon does Matt LaFleur throw them in there just to get their feet wet, and how do they react? We've seen Romeo Doubs make some wow plays in practice. What happens when he has a corner hanging off of him that isn't playing off because of practice? And he got that a little bit in the preseason, but it's not quite the same. And do we see Christian Watson out there who hasn't played at all in the preseason? The speed is really what gets a lot of these guys in their very first game. I guess I just kind of want to see, does Matt LaFleur risk throwing them out there in a divisional game to get their feet wet? And if so, how well and how quickly do they adjust? And then the third thing, let's just go ahead and hit every phase of the game. Special teams. They did not look great during the preseason, but that's somewhat to be expected when they're rotating 60 guys through special teams just to give them all a chance to get snaps and get tape during the preseason. What does it look like now that you've got a lineup for special teams and they're going to be playing a decent number of starters on special teams? Eric Stokes, Rasul Douglas, I'm trying to think, A.J. Dillon, who else? A lot of the linemen.
Yeah.
Not Jair, but yeah, and linebackers, Adrian Amos at times. I mean, they're playing a lot more starters than they have in the past. What does it look like when you've got that number, when you've got those guys out there? Do the procedural penalties go away? are they more in the right place? Because that was the issue that Matt LaFleur had with special teams during the preseason, was he said it was too many guys freelancing at times. Does it look more cohesive when you have starters playing? I know, having watched them practice, that Rich Bisaccia has put them through so much. And there's such an emphasis on special teams that there hasn't been in a long time. I don't doubt that Rich Bisaccia is doing everything on his part. What does that look like on the field when you do have a bunch of starters playing versus rotating 60 guys through there that may have only been there for 2 days?
Real quick before I let you go, how much of a stir was it for, when Zadarius Smith said that he wasn't treated well his last season in Green Bay, if any?
That was quite a statement. Granted, he didn't make that a secret on his way out of Green Bay. He was not happy that he was not named the captain last year, and I think that was just what started it, and it only got worse from there. When he wasn't named the captain at that point, any possible thing that went wrong, he was going to be upset about, which, I guess makes sense. Both Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers sort of brushed it off today, I guess hoping to not provide any more bulletin board material. But they have some on their own. Was Zadarius Smith essentially saying, I went to the Vikings just so I could play the Packers twice a year? And he made it clear that was why he went to Minnesota. Aaron Rodgers, like I said, didn't say much. We talked to him in the locker room today, and he said, I was made aware. He was asked his response to Zadarius Smith's comments, and he said, I was made aware of that today. I'm not going to add any fuel to the fire. I'll just agree with everything Matt said. And Matt LaFleur had essentially said, I respect the crap out of Zadarius. We have different perspectives on how things ended.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers has not had any problem speaking on former teammates. He still glows, he still speaks glowingly about Devontae Adams. The fact that he didn't say anything says a lot to me.
Right, no doubt. Cassidy, great stuff. Appreciate it, and we'll chat again soon, okay? Thanks so much.
Thanks. Y'all have a great day.
You too. There you go. That's Cassidy Hill joining us from the Journal-Sentinel, covering the Green Bay Packers. Has been in Green Bay throughout most of training camp, as a matter of fact. And thanks to her for joining us for a couple of minutes on the hotline. We are broadcasting live. We're at Mason's Eatery and Pub. We are here in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is where you can find us. We certainly appreciate you if you want to swing by and say hi. Otherwise, you can always join us at many of the huddles that are upcoming all throughout the remainder of the season. Regular season, postseason, leading you all the way up to the Super Bowl, which is going to happen out in Arizona, and we'll be there for that as well. Thanks to our friends at Bud Light. More of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up next.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. We are broadcasting live. We're at Mason's Eatery and Pub. We are in Kenosha, Wisconsin. That's where you can find us. And I want to say hi to John and Rick, Andrew, Carrie, Ted, everybody over in the Bud Light live stream. Thanks for taking a listen to us and watching there as well. We certainly appreciate it. And yes, to Mark, who was looking in, he says the bar area full. It was. It's not as much anymore, but it was. You got some guys doing a fantasy draft here, as I had mentioned before. The Packers, the four-letter network went through each team's path to get to and win a Super Bowl. And the Packers have a 70.7% chance to make the playoffs. They have a 6.2% chance, 6.2% chance to win the Super Bowl. Kansas City, there's some other teams that are ahead of them, obviously, that could possibly win a Super Bowl. I think there's a lot of picks that are up there. The Packers obviously being one of them. The number one team is at 6.9%. That's the Buffalo Bills, a 74. So really, when you think about it, it goes the Bills, the Rams, and then the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Packers, it's funny in this article because, and I know who they mean, okay, and I don't mean to nitpick because I hate it when it happens to me, but the Packers, it says the Packers have been consistent in the Metrodome, in the, quote, Metronome over Mike LaFleur's first 3 years as a coach. There was no proofreading involved, just an FYI. They win 13 games, lose in excruciating fashion in the postseason, and don't add the wide receivers everybody wants them to pick up during the offseason. Most teams would kill for this formula, but you can understand why Green Bay fans might be a little bit frustrated, and they want more come 2022, such as yours truly. I've been saying for the entire offseason, it is no longer about the regular season. It is no longer about excuses in the postseason. This, knowing what's coming, and it's not because I don't think that there isn't this level of pressure, that I don't think that it's easy to get to a Super Bowl. I know it's not. I know it's incredibly difficult. The Packers have wasted some opportunities. But knowing that the light at the end of the tunnel is growing ever brighter as Aaron Rodgers walks towards the light of retirement, it is imperative that this team do anything and everything it can to push every chip they possibly can to the middle of the table to get there. And whether that's this year or next year, they have to do everything. So this year, they picked up Sammy Watkins. They bolstered their defense. They figure, look, if we can't beat you offensively, and if our offense is going to continue to struggle come the postseason, then at least what we can do is get a defense and fortify our special teams and beat you in 2 out of 3 areas rather than being weak in 2 out of 3 areas. And at least then we give the opportunity back to the offense to give you more chances to score and get points, which is a pretty good formula. I can't argue with that. I can't argue with Brian Gutekunst looking on the field going, if we can't just go out and get 4 or 5 prolific wide receivers just to fill the bill with Aaron Rodgers, then let's go get a defense. Let's go get a defense that we believe that can, 1, get off the field on 3rd down. 2, it has the opportunity to turn the ball over. 3, is pretty strong at almost every position. The only quandary is their depth issue. Their depth issue at the outside linebacker, their depth issue at safety, their depth issue at the linebacker position in general. But other than that, I mean, this is a team, if you look at the all 22, and even 23, if you throw into the nickel package with Rasul Douglas, they're strong. Nobody's going to disagree with that. It's a strong team. And the weakest area then would be the wide receiving core, when normally you probably wouldn't say that. So the weaponry they have, you're going to hear the discussion about it tonight. Aaron Rodgers spoke to the media. We're going to hear that conversation coming up, or at least a good portion of it coming up. We're not done yet, though. We got another hour of the Bill Michaels Huddle. Also coming up here at the bottom of the next hour, our one and only Mike Clemens is going to join us. I think Mike is, I don't know if Mike's at practice or where he's at, or he's heading over to Minnesota. I don't know what he's doing. He's got something going on. We'll talk to Mike coming up here in about 35 minutes from now as well. Aaron Rodgers in that presser and the back and forth with the media today. You'll hear that coming up here shortly. Stay tuned. 1 hour down, 1 hour yet to go. We are brought to you by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We'll be back right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Alan Lazard was the only player not to practice for the Packers today. Wide receiver got stepped down in practice last week, though he was running hard off to the side at practice today. The status of tackles David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins also remains up in the air. QB Aaron Rodgers, he's not sure if either will play when the team opens up the season this Sunday in Minnesota. Meanwhile, the defense is healthy, including safety Darnell Savage. He missed most of the preseason with a hamstring injury suffered a month ago. He said his body feels good. He also likes where the defense is, though he knows they haven't arrived just yet.
You're always going to have something to prove. Somebody's always going to, but I think the biggest thing that we're focusing on, we want to prove it to ourselves. If we do everything in our power to make the plays that we know we can make and be the group that we know we can be, I think we proved it to ourselves. So, like I said, that's the goal. Whoever lines up against us on Sunday or, whatever day it is, Thursday, Monday, whatever, we want to line up and prove that we're the better group. So that's what we're going to do.
Meanwhile, former Packers linebacker Zadarius Smith said he felt mistreated last year by the team. Smith missed most of the season with a back injury and said no one was really concerned about him. Packers coach Matt LaFleur said today he respects Smith as a player, but they have a different perspective on how things played out last season.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up, and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
Well, Wisconsin going to face Washington State on Saturday. Going to be the second all-time meeting, with the Badgers winning the first one back in 2007. Cougars starting right back Nikhil Watson. He started his career with the Badgers before transferring after the 2020 season. Kick on Saturdays at 2:30. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Glad to have you back. Hour number 2, broadcasting live at Mason's Eatery and Pub. We are here in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Glad you're on board today. Our first one right before, the last couple have been great. We were down at the Mecca, and then obviously we were down at the Bud Pavilion last week, and that was a really, really special night. But this is getting back at it. We're ready for football. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Ready to get things started. You already saw the college weekend get underway, week 1 officially, so to speak. And you got Thursday night football, a good one tomorrow night. A good one. Buffalo, the Rams, a really good one to kick off the season. And then everybody gets going on Sunday. The Green Bay Packers, an afternoon game on Fox. That's going to be seen by the majority of the country. New York, the Giants, actually will have the New York market in portions of Kentucky and Tennessee. But that's about it. Everything else, the rest of the country is going to see the Green Bay Packers on display. And life after Devontae Adams will begin, this new look defense. and what the Packers hope to be a better special teams unit, and maybe, just maybe, they can go into the Dome at U.S. Bank Stadium and walk away with a victory. Coming up here at the bottom of the hour, Mike Clemens is going to be joining us. Until then, I want to let you listen in a little bit. Aaron Rodgers, we did not get a chance today. They practiced a little bit later. They're trying to get used to the late start time. So Matt LaFleur kind of changed things up practice time-wise, getting them used to the afternoon portion. So it came a little bit later today. So Aaron Rodgers had a chance to chat back and forth with the media about numerous things. Take a listen.
Last year, tough game. Their offense kept scoring. They taken away your outside passes, and then you lose that one. And it's so noisy up there. Some of these young guys looking at that tape saying, "Wow, how that game went." Is that relatable to this week's game at US Bank?
Well, we played good last year. Offensively, we had a nice game. We started a little bit slow, and then really kind of the end of the second quarter on, we started really playing well, and just didn't start fast enough for us to be able to win that shootout. But we've dealt with the noise there before. It's a loud stadium. We've won some games there. It's a tough place to play, and especially week one with all the excitement of a new season. I'm sure they'll be extra amped up.
If he does get to you, do you expect a little extra trash talk from him or not when he's on the ground with you?
No, we'll see.
Aaron, what is your response to that he said he was treated badly here last year? I mean, what do you remember from that situation?
I was made aware of that, and I don't want to add any fuel to the fire. I'll just echo exactly what Matt said.
If Allen can't go, you've been pretty clear he's your number one. Is there a guy who's separated himself beside him, or is it every move for himself after that?
Oh, well, I think there's about there's about 5 guys that we expect to kind of be in the mix consistently playing receiver for us, and if one of them goes down, then the other 4 better be ready.
Concern with Lazard at this point, or are you pretty confident?
Oh, I don't know. We'll see. Let's see how he's feeling this week. I don't think he needs a lot of practice to be ready to go, so let's see how the week progresses.
What's the atmosphere like in Minnesota? Obviously, we know they got the school chant and the horn. Have you just grown accustomed to that throughout the years?
Yeah, I mean, it's a loud stadium. No disrespect, but it's not louder than the old Metrodome. And those of you who've covered games there, that was really difficult to play. I mean, that was like Seattle in its heyday where you just couldn't hear anything. Now, this is still really loud. But when they make these big, beautiful stadiums now, I don't know if it's the way they make them or the size, but all the great stadiums that have been built up until this point, Dallas and Atlanta got a new one. I'm guessing, the one in LA, they're beautiful stadiums, not quite as loud as some of the old, the old Metrodome and the old Superdome, but definitely loud, difficult environment.
Where do you think you're at with your offensive line?
Well, we'll see what Dave and Elton's status is. Very young. Even after those guys, there's going to be young guys suited up for sure, whether or not those guys play. And, we don't have like that swing veteran tackle that we've had in years past, or that, older veteran, the Lucas Patrick type guy. So expecting those young guys to be ready to go if their number gets called. He looks great. He's really gifted. He has great hands. He's a really intuitive route runner. He's got great instincts. He's made a couple plays in practice that are just different than what we've had, from those other guys in his absence. And it's no disrespect to those guys. It's just at the level that he's capable of playing at is at that Pro Bowl caliber level. So we got to get him feeling healthy and playing like he was playing a couple years ago, and get him going early.
Aaron, how do you feel about starting a season on the road? It's the 4th year in a row, I think, every year on the road.
The NFL wants parity. That's why the schedule is set up the way it is, with the extra games being against, as division winners against division winners, both in this conference and the other conference. And so that's just the way it is. I think it's good for the league because they want to see a turnover of teams. Also good for the league when the Green Bay Packers are playing well. So, we've played in some tough environments. This will be another one. Good test. Just like all the other teams in the NFC North, it seems like every single year. I think their fan base and their teams feel like this is our year to win the North. Hasn't really been the case during my time for the most part. Yeah, different for sure. A lot of respect for Coach Zimmer. A lot of battles over the years, difficult alignments and pressure packages. This is, a little bit more like our defense, and the defense has kind of taken over the NFL, as you're seeing. There's trends with the offense and defense, and the defensive trend seems to be a lot of this combo coverage and 3-4 shell coverage. That we run, that the Rams have run, and that kind of went from there. And very similar, Vic Fangio style defenses. Obviously, Mike's there, and we know Mike, great coach, really smart guy. So there'll be some stuff that we see in practice, and I'm sure there'll be some unscouted stuff.
Aaron, you said crazy growing pains a few times in camp.
Not in a while, though.
Not in a while. If there are any growing pains in the opener, how do you alleviate some of those for the Silvers guys?
Just like last year when the world was falling apart after we got trounced in Jacksonville. Take a deep breath. One game. It's not a make or break for the season. It can be for the confidence. It can be for the approach if you're, mentally weak. But it's one game. So whether we go to Minnesota and have a great performance or whether we, have a struggle up there, it's one game, and we're going to have to find consistency throughout the season. And that takes a dedication to craft, to preparation, and pride in the performance that for the young guys, they're going to have to learn what that looks like and what that feels like.
Over the course of your career, would you say you generally have a pretty good idea of how good the team's going to be at this point?
Generally, yes.
How do you feel about this one?
Generally good.
Every time the Lions and Bears and Vikings make a change, your team, you are the target. And this team is bringing Mike Pettin, Smith, Darius. Does that make this even more of a challenge because of those guys?
Well, it's those guys, and then it's the other guys on the other side of the ball that they got too. They got some talent on both sides of the ball, and they've been, the second best team in the division. It feels like the last couple of years. Everybody's trying to knock us off. I remember we played them at home in I think it was 18 and early in the season, and Everson was talking about we're the kings of the North now. Neither of us, I think, that year were the kings of the North. But yeah, it's always a battle. It's the history of the rivalry with Chicago, and I think it's the kind of the border animosity between the people of Minnesota and Wisconsin that adds some fuel to this rivalry.
I think it's your 15th opener you're starting. How's that changed for you over the years as far as a mentality? I don't know if you're ever nervous before games. Because how's that changed?
I think the nerves definitely are less than maybe 2008 against Minnesota at home, thankfully. But it's still exciting. I think if you're not nervous or don't have the butterflies, maybe you're doing the wrong thing. So I'll be excited to see how I feel before the game. But I know there's definitely excitement, and the excitement is paired with the anxiety that comes from the pressure of the performance, being in the microscope of your teammates, the fans, the country, and the excitement with which that brings, the challenge. I really enjoy that and look forward to starting off another season against a tough opponent, kind of seeing where we're at in week one. Last year, we saw where we were at in week one. We weren't very good, but we bounced back and turned into a pretty damn good team. So we're going to, again, be patient with our young guys, hold them to a high standard, and hopefully get off to a little better start than we did last year.
This is totally off the subject. Yeah. University of Wisconsin safety John Torchio, his dad was a Cal quarterback. He was saying yesterday he remembered you coming over a couple times when he was a kid, maybe either babysitting or doing lawn work. Do you remember this at all?
Talking to somebody with a good memory, and I definitely remember going over to to Jay, his father's house. And, you know, it was one of those things in the summer we were trying to make some money. And I got paired up with my good buddy, David Loney, who is our Australian punter. And we had a window washing business. So naturally we hit up some of the, you know, alumni. I think his memory is a little bit off because what was usually going on, and this is not a lie, and David can probably back me up on this whether he wants to or not if you track him down in the Gold Coast of Australia. But he was, you know, 6'5", good looking, tall. You know, he was hanging inside with the, you know, the kids and the moms. I was outside busting my ass getting those windows done. But so if Mr. Torgio remembers anything, it was probably David Loney inside and not myself, because I was outside humping it on those windows. But it was a good time. Me and Dave had a lot of fun, and there were a lot of great alumni who took care of us. You know, but it was not easy work. It was some tough days.
Did you know that John was playing at Wisconsin?
I just, you know, somebody sent me that article, and Dave and I still keep in touch a little bit, and it's still one of our jokes about how literally that summer he was inside in the air conditioning, you know, hanging out, eating snacks and drinking rosé, and I was outside, you know, with the wipers busting my ass, you know, dying outside. But you know, so let me just, I wonder if he remembers that. You should ask him. I'd like to hear back.
He apparently passed up a scholarship offer from your alma mater to walk on.
Well, that says a lot about Wisconsin.
You talk about the butterflies. Have you talked to Romeo or Samari about, you know, just their first NFL game and, you know, to calm the nerves a little bit?
Not yet. You know, they've already played in a few games. Obviously, it's a little different. The speed is amped up. You know, they felt the other day, I think, what me in a game-like situation is like. You know, my energy and the expectation and the tempo is which we play at. So, look, they know what the expectations are. We're not going to put them in positions to not be successful. But there's going to be opportunities for them when they get out there to make plays. And I'm confident that they're going to make the plays that are available. I have,
but
yes.
You did have ups and downs with Mike, and you didn't know Matt at all. It seems like you guys are in a great place. How'd you get to this point, and did you do anything that first year?
Mike who?
Mike
McCarthy?
Yeah.
Based on what?
It seemed like you had ups and downs.
Okay, so you're stating that as fact, right? Okay.
So back to Matt. Did he do anything that first year to get things moving in the positive direction?
No, we just communicated and spent time with each other talking ball. I've said, you know, many times that I think the biggest jump for us was between years 1 and 2 with all the Zoom meetings that we did and going through the kind of the depth of the playbook and taking stuff out that wasn't working and adding stuff back in that might have worked. And that was, I think, when our relationship really took off. And then the last 2 years, we've been a lot better on offense.
What does it say about the success you had that now he's the longest tenured guy in the league, in the conference? Because obviously you guys are winning, you beat them, and they have to find you guys to lead.
In the division or conference?
In division, excuse me.
Yeah. Look, that's the NFL now. It's win now or you're out of here. So we've been winning the last 3 years. So Matty's going to be here for a while. But there's not a lot of patience from these owners. We wouldn't know. We don't have an owner. We have a lot of owners. And they might have the same level of patience, but not the ability to fire a head coach as quickly. So Matty's a great coach. You know, when you're having your staff moving on and going to other places and taking jobs, promotions, that's fantastic. Then you're adding guys to the staff that are coaches in waiting that are really excellent football minds. That's when you see what we had this year with Luke being able to slide right into the offensive line and do a great job. And John Dunn, from whatever his specific title was last year, to slide into the tight end room and do a fantastic job. Says a lot about the kind of men that he's keeping around here and the way that he kind of empowers those guys to take control and to ready themselves for the next jump.
Matt's extension came down at the same time as this summer. What does that level of organizational consistency say about this franchise?
Says they're tied at the hip. So we win, everybody gets paid. We know what happens the other way.
You talk about your O-line being young here. It's maybe the most obvious question I've ever asked you, but what did it mean to get Dave and Elton out there? Not just because they're good players, but they're used to dealing with the noise that they've been in these Metrodome games before.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely settled everybody's nerves, maybe a little bit about that. But look, I mean, both the tackles who would play if those guys didn't play have played a lot of football for us. Now, Royce mostly a guard, but Yash played a lot of ball for us last year, left tackle, did a nice job. So I can't say I'm worried about Yash. You know, I'm excited about those guys if they're out there with their opportunities. Obviously excited to get Dave and Nelton back. Hoping for this week, but we'll see. Those guys just have just a consistency that they've played at for such a, for a long time. Dave for obviously much longer than Elton, but yeah, we're young at that spot. Like I said, we don't have the usual older vets that we've had in years past.
There you go, Aaron Rodgers meeting with the media. Some interesting stuff. And going back to what Cassidy said earlier, when we had Cassidy Hill on the line from the Journal-Sentinel, he was not going to add any fuel to the fire. He was not going to speak about Zadarius Smith. He did. I found it interesting when asked specifically. Now, he's never shied away from fan bases or egging fan bases on. God knows that when he said, "I own you" to the Chicago Bears fan base. But he said, the new stadium, yeah, it's a hostile environment, but no offense, it's not as loud as the old place. You don't crank it up like the old place did, not like the old Metrodome. So he did kind of throw it out there to say, yeah, you can't get the job done. We've been in louder. Don't worry about it. The new stadiums, they're not as loud. So you'll wonder if that specific comment is going to find its way into Minneapolis. Let's do this. We're going to take a quick break and come back. A lot of the things to discuss, some new prop bets coming out about the Green Bay Packers specifically. We'll follow up on what Aaron Rodgers had to say. Some interesting stuff there as well, because I kind of wanted to dissect a few things that Aaron Rodgers had to discuss. We are broadcasting live. We're in Mason's Eatery and Pub. We are in Kenosha, Wisconsin, right here off of 75. So if you're off of 50, if you're looking for us. So by all means, stop by, say hi. More of the Bill Michaels Show right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Glad to have you back. The Bill Michaels Show. We are brought to you by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. In the Huddle down here in Kenosha at Mason's Eatery Pub and Grill. And glad to have you. So, Aaron Rodgers spoke with the media a little while ago and going over some of the things that he had to say. He didn't want to add fuel to the fire regarding Za'Darius. He talked about the Metrodome being louder than U.S. Bank Stadium and kind of laughed about it a little bit. Did not allude to whether or not Allen Lazard would or would not play in this upcoming contest. He did say when it came to the offensive line, he said the same thing that Matt LaFleur said when it came to Dave Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins. We'll see. He said we're very young otherwise. We don't have a swing veteran tackle. They don't have a Lucas Patrick type of guy. A little bit concerning. He did say Robert Tonyan looks great, but he talked about the NFC North. And I also thought this was rather interesting when he said, hey, fans for a while now, in multiple years have said, this is our time, whether it's the Bears or the Vikings, and it's our time to win the North. And he said it just hasn't been their time in my time here, which basically says you're not winning it too often if I'm around. There was some discussion of what different defenses and such they're starting to see. But the one aspect that people keep going back to was last year's contest against New Orleans when they just got blasted and said, let's just say for blanks and giggles, what happens if you do take yet another loss in an opener on the road? And he said, well, if you lose, you take a deep breath. It's one game. And then he got specific about it, saying you have to find consistency in the season. He said it's something that being a younger team with, more than a few young guys on this team, he said it's something they're going to have to learn, and they're going to have to learn quick. But I thought the best thing that he said was a really cool description because we talk about the rivalries. What's the strongest rivalry? What's a better rivalry? Chicago, Minnesota. And he said there's the rivalry that is the history with the Chicago Bears, but it's the animosity on the border between Wisconsin and Minnesota that makes that rivalry. So the history with the Bears, the animosity with Minnesota, which I thought that was cool. He did snap at the reporter that said to him, hey, you had your ups and downs with Mike, what has made your relationship with Matt so good? And he said, wait, Mike. And the guy said McCarthy, and he said, ups and downs, you know that as a fact? As if to say, no, where'd you get that? I've never stated that. He's never refuted it, but he doesn't want to say, emphatically and state it. He's very cognizant of what he doesn't and does say. Sometimes what he doesn't say speaks louder than what he does say, but he kind of snapped, and that became a very short and I'm going to say somewhat terse answer when he talked about that. He then went on to explain his quote communication with Matt LaFleur. And then he did say in regards to the contract extensions with Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur, he said it's easy. We win and everybody gets paid. We lose and the other happens. And so things kind of, after that went in a different direction. But nevertheless, that was Aaron Rodgers. So some interesting things. Aaron Rodgers, including the postseason. Green Bay 16-10-1 against Minnesota with Rodgers as the starting quarterback. Rodgers only second to Brett Favre for the most wins as a starting quarterback regarding the Vikings. He will tie Brett Favre if indeed they get a win on Sunday. Brett Favre has 17. Brett Favre is 17-15-1. Rodgers is 16-10-1. And including the playoffs, Rodgers has 57 TDs and only 7 interceptions with a passer rating of 110.2 against the Vikings. His passer rating, by the way, the highest of any opposing starting quarterback against the Minnesota Vikings. Russell Wilson has 105 and Drew Brees has a 100, according to Stats Pass. Rodgers has thrown 56 touchdowns during the regular season against the Vikings, the most in NFL history against Minnesota. Brett Favre only had 54, and Rodgers has recorded a 100-plus passer rating in 17 of his 27 starts against the Vikings. That's including the postseason, and a rating of 94-plus in 20 contests. And in the last 20 games against Minnesota, including playoffs, Rodgers has thrown 35 touchdowns and only 4 picks. So, and by the way, in 6 games of that rivalry with Rodgers at the helm, he's got 4+ touchdown passing games with 0 interceptions against the Vikings. No other quarterback has more than 2 against Minnesota. He's had a lot of success against Minnesota. So there you have it. Let's do this. We're going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back, and Mike Clemens is going to join us. I believe Mike is in Green Bay. I think he's hanging out there for the next couple of days, and then after that, he is off to Minnesota, much like I am. So we'll step away. We'll take a quick break. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. They are the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network, and if you're doing your fantasy draft, do it with Buds. Stay tuned. Mike Clemens up next on the Bill Michaels Show.
Let we go. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. We continue on broadcasting live. We're here at Mason's Eatery and Pub. We are in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Glad to have you. Thanks for taking a listen. We certainly appreciate it. Night is starting to fall. Darkness creeping in a little bit as we are now sitting at only a little after 7:30, 7:35 to be exact. So the fall days are fast coming, and that means football. And when we talk football, we go north. We go to our guy, Mike Clemens, on the ground, Green Bay. Michael, how you been, buddy?
Buddy, I'm in the office in the south end zone here, my little media office, and as I just came in from outside, that sunset is up here in Green Bay. Got these big clouds that are off over the lake, and then you see the sun as it sets reflecting off the windows of the stadium. It's pretty cool. You know, Lambeau Field all orange right now at sunset. Pretty nice glow as, you know, fall and football season's upon us.
So I asked everybody this. So the 2 or 3 things you're specifically looking for in this first game with the Packers and the Vikings.
You know, you've got a Vikings team with a core on their offense that beat you in kind of a shootout last November up at U.S. Bank. First of all, you walk into U.S. Bank, it's just loud as hell. And it picks off from what they used to do when they used to artificially pump in the sound down on the ground at the old Humphrey Dome, and it's actually choreographed with the audio meter that they put up in the scoreboard and the skull chants and everything to pump in the noise. And then you look in their backfield, and you got Dalvin Cook back there and Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins, man, he goes from Mike Zimmer to Kevin O'Connell, a guy that worked with him with the Redskins, 37 years old. I mean, he's got a former NFL backup quarterback now as his head coach, and they got to be talking, each other's language. Kirk Cousins got to be just ecstatic that at this point of his career and his contract with the Vikings, that he's getting a second chance for that kind of an offense. Justin Jefferson, you saw what a great kid. Maybe we could we replay that when you sat down with Justin Jefferson the week of the Super Bowl? I mean, could that kid be a better individual? And as a matter of fact, he's actually replaced. Adam Thielen has been the face of the franchise on the media guides and on the scoreboards and stuff. And now Justin is the face of the franchise. Speedy, good hands, good route runner. Going to his third season now. But then they just picked up this Jalen Reagor, who's at one time got clocked 4.3 at a pro day. He went through the ups and downs of the Eagles the last couple of years after Doug Peterson got fired, and Cameron Wentz was there, all that kind of stuff. So they've got another speedster on the other side of the football as well, along with Thielen. So on the good news is you've got this Packers defense now. It's kind of what Zimmer had about 5 years ago. They've been together 2 or 3 years. This is their second year under Joe Barry. But, you got Kenny Clark coming into his 7th season, and you got Rashawn Gary. That guy, Bill, I mean, look out for him. There's just since Darius left, he has gone to the next level. He's all vinegar when you talk to him. I mean, he can hardly wait to get out of the gates and show that he can take this game to the next level. The speed, it seems like he's lost a little weight. I can hardly wait to see what he pulls. And then, as good as these covers guys could possibly be with Jair and Eric Stokes on the corners and Rasul Douglas, who just now seems to, talking to him again today, he is so mature and in tune with what's going on to play that slot. And you still got Adrian Amos and Savage is, he's getting back after having a hamstring most of camp. But you've got a really good defense, potentially good defense, to meet the challenge of the Vikings at home.
Mike, I know there's been so much talk about Aaron Rodgers and the wide receivers. He just kept saying, they got to get their confidence, they got to get their structure, they got to get consistency. Have you seen that? I mean, I know he hasn't specifically sat down and talked to each guy about what the expectations are, but he says, in these practices that they've had in that game-like situation, he says they get it now. They understand what I want from them. Now they have to go perform, and they got a lot of pressure on them to do that because they don't have a lot of veterans that can catch passes right now.
It's going to be a lot of hand signals at 325 in U.S. Bank, right. Okay? I mean, it's not like they're going to hear any kind of a snap count out of Aaron Rodgers. And, it's just where's the ball going to be? It's the look in the eyes. It's like, oh, look, the safety just moved to inside leverage, so that means you got to cut out Allen. And, Lazard knows that. Well, today, there's Lazard, and he's with a trainer, and he's running these gassers, and he was, mysteriously injured for the last week. On Monday, LaFleur, he's just dealing his cards slowly one at a time, saying, yeah, I don't know if he's going to, be at practice Wednesday or not. And today, LaFleur, the next chapter was, okay, somebody stepped on him. So Allen Lazard was a victim of friendly fire in that intense practice last Wednesday. And then the injury report came out about 4 o'clock, and he's posted as an ankle injury. So and to me, from what I saw him working out today, that would be then the left ankle. So he would run these gassers today for about 40 yards. I'm going to post some video of that later on. He, to me, it looked like he was 80%. He would run a gasser, and then he'd go back to the trainer and say, well, look, this part's not feeling good, this part's not feeling good, that kind of thing. So that could be, that looks questionable right up to game time if he even plays it all. So the next question is, who do they begin their XYZ with? And I guess that would be Sammy Watkins. Who, they haven't been in a game yet together. They've just been in these simulated practices, these joint practices. You got Randall Cobb, and that means that you got to perhaps, it's either Amari Rodgers or Romeo Doubs, the rookie. But one thing is for sure, Christian Watson was full participation in today's practice. So you got Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon back there, and I'm telling you, if you work it the right way and you're keeping that Vikings defense at bay for 2.5, 3 seconds, if you get the Vikings to believe that Aaron Jones is going to get the ball on 2nd and 7 at midfield, and you play action, and Aaron can roll that out like he used to Jordy Nelson and later to Devontae Adams, Christian Watson will be streaking down the field if you got a single safety back there with the big paw up on 6'4", wide open. And if he catches the football, you just picked up at least 45 yards.
That's, again, as long as he catches the football. I know Aaron Rodgers talked about the last thing that these guys are worried about is just grabbing onto it. That's the first thing they need to realize. But it's about route running. It's about the route tree. It's about where they're supposed to be. The window the ball is going to be thrown in. He said, instinct's not going to take over for a while, which is why he wants to be able to get them, as he said, into the flow. And my assumption is, Mike, do they start out with quick, short passes, get guys a couple of catches, let them get their hands on the football, let them grab onto it a couple of times, get a little confidence before they start opening things up?
Yeah, and I also don't see them being shy of testing, the Vikings defense. Patrick Peterson's 32 now. I mean, maybe you can get, blow past him down the sideline. Harrison Smith is back there to direct what's going on at their safety position. I would imagine the bigger story is Aaron Rodgers getting time. They've got some new faces on their defensive line, but, with Daniil Hunter and Zadarius on the opposite side crashing in, that's probably going to be where they're really focused is, are we pass protecting or have we got a hat on these guys so that we can get some kind of a run game going? And so, because, if David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins, with all the way their slug is, are limited on Wednesday, well, then are they really going to play this weekend? No, probably not. They were limited. They did not participate in their long team drill that they had today out in the hot sun in the Hinkle field. So it's going to be the 5 young guys. It's going to be Josh Nyman, the left tackle, most likely, and Royce Newman at the right tackle, and Josh Myers, over the football. And that's going to be the interesting story to watch, just see if they can take care of the Vikings' new front 7.
I want to ask you about the conspiracy side of things when we come back, because I had an interesting thought earlier this week, and I wanted to bring it up to you. Stay tuned. We're talking with Mike Clemens up in Green Bay. I'm Bill Michaels down in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. Going to go ahead and take a quick break. Final segment of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up next.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Glad to have you back. Final segment of the Bill Michaels Huddle. We are broadcasting live at Mason's Eatery and Pub down here in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Good to be back down to Kenosha. We don't get here very often. Guy made it here towards the end of the season a couple of times last year, but that was about it. So Good to get back. Mike Clemens joining us on the line. Mike, when we heard that David Bakhtiari should be ready for week 1, I thought of you right away. And my first thought was, is this just kind of a conspiracy planting the seed to have the Vikings think he was going to be back?
No, part of it was because David was going to participate in team drills on Monday in what was a light workout. And they did that. And then Rob Domosky, ESPN, got him just for a couple of quick Q&A before he went to a meeting. And he said, well, I'm active, so yeah, anything's possible. So that was 48 hours ago. But today, when he comes out of the practice listed as limited, that means he didn't make it to, the rest of the practice, the 11 on 11, that he just, ran some of the drills. So, that's a setback there. But if you want to get into conspiracies, man, I love the Zadarius Smith storyline because I've tried to follow it, through the season because Zadarius was such a larger than life figure on the team, on the field. Remember he'd get the sack and then he'd have a new display for a T-shirt with some sort of a saying on it in a game. And like I told you earlier today, I remember in the spring of 19 was his first year that he called in for a big barbecue in May or so that brought all the players and teams and coaches together. And Rodgers even complimented, we haven't had that feeling around here in a long time. So then, he has this back injury last summer while he's weightlifting, only can play part of the game against the Saints. He goes on and gets a second opinion, maybe against what, the Packers team doctors wanted him to do, the path that they wanted him to take, ends up having some surgery on it. And then as he tells Tyler Dunn and go along that you had on your show earlier today, it's like all of a sudden these guys start ignoring me. And, the guy's got, a little bit of a tender emotional side to him. And he felt like he'd gone from, a team captain to just, pushed off to the curbside, kicked to the curb. And that's not only just maybe from coaches or whatever, but, from some of the teammates as well. But I also think that it also shows you perhaps his act wore out in the team always. That Preston and Rashawn Gary seem to be perhaps the more deserving of those two spots. So you get through the season, and he got those snaps in the 49ers game. He got the one sack earlier in the game. And then you come out of that whole thing, and the first question I asked Gutekunst when we were down in Indianapolis at the Combine was, can you tell us about what went on with Zadarius? Was just kind of like the Bakhtiari thing. Was there a setback? Was there a bad decision made there? And well, it's a complicated thing, and it's a back injury and all. And we have to figure out what we're gonna do there. But I like what Rashawn is doing, and we got Preston and we got Jonathan Garvin. And I said, and I told you then from Indy, oh my God, he just named the new depth chart.
Right.
Which is, here we are 6 months later. That's exactly what they did. Plus, they saved themselves $15 million off the salary cap. They're Russ Ball is telling them, hey guys, next year you got to come up with a deal for Rashawn. And why do you want to bring a guy back with a bulging disc who's going to turn 30 tomorrow, as a matter of fact?
Yeah.
So, Zadarius then, he's interested in going back to the Ravens, and at the last minute, he looks at the Vikings and says, wait a minute, they got Mike Pettin there. I got along with him okay. I got Mike Smith. Those linebackers love Mike Smith. When we asked Rashawn Gary about Mike Smith, before we even knew that Mike Smith was going to leave, he broke down in tears about how much Mike Smith had helped them go from that rookie from Michigan to the pro football player in the last 3 years. Mike goes to the Vikings, I'm guessing because he thought it was a better opportunity for him to be a defensive coordinator someday. Ed Donatel is 65 years old. He's their current defensive coordinator. Maybe Pettin could coach him along, and he gets that opportunity in the next couple of years up there in Minnesota. And Shannon Sullivan comes along as well. So it's just like, you know what? I'll do a Favre. I'll show Green Bay. I'll get to play him twice a year. And now you've got this great, game with juice. Well, today Matt LaFleur was asked, so, did things end in a bad way with Zadarius Smith? And he says, Zadarius, worked his tail off and, got nothing but good things to say, but I'm just going to leave it at that. And then when you have a chance to ask Aaron Rodgers, who has not, is not held back on anything if he was taking a shot at his own organization or players getting overlooked. All Aaron Rodgers did was 100% back up Matt. Hey, whatever Matt said, that's what I'm saying. Which means Aaron Rodgers is telling you there was a thing there with Zadarius, and good riddance, buddy.
Right. Yeah, I thought the same thing because Aaron Rodgers has never shied away from the opportunity to speak on a former player, especially if he feels like maybe he'd been mistreated. And
yes.
He's very specific about it. And when he wouldn't comment on it, I thought, oh, there must have been something inside that locker room that did not sit well. I don't know specifically what it was. And I got to think, we know, Mike, if it goes back to the back injury, we know there is nobody in this business more cautious than Doc McKenzie and the Packers training staff. So for him to go out and get a second opinion and then say, I need to get this surgery, maybe against the advice of the Packers, maybe they just felt that he bailed on him because Doc McKenzie's usually the most conservative cat in the room,
Exactly. Then the organization is saying, all right, it's your body. You can do whatever you want to it. But frankly, we kind of consider you've gone a little bit rogue on us.
Right.
And oh, by the way, Jonathan Garvin is doing a fine job as the number 3 guy. And we got some other guys that are coming up. And we really don't want to spend $15 million on a bulging disc.
Yeah. No, I
on a linebacker.
Right. I get it. I hopefully he doesn't come back with a vengeance on Aaron Rodgers in game 1, but it was something that certainly kind of lit the fuse, I guess, going into this week, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And it started, I knew that Tyler had gone into the Vikings camp early in training camp, and I anticipated that was the story that he was. Cause all I knew is he was just saying, "Yeah, I'm getting a great greeting here from the Vikings." See, there's the game inside the game here.
Right.
The Vikings know that Tyler Dunn did the Mike McCarthy story. The story about him getting massages while guys are out there.
Right. Right.
In meetings and things like that, and all that other stuff. He's the one that wrote the story when they hired Matt LaFleur and they had, Murphy and Russ and, Goody on a speakerphone. They said to Aaron Rodgers, okay, we're going to hire Matt LaFleur. And that the last thing that Murphy said was, now don't be the problem this time.
Right.
Okay. The Packers, I don't know if Tyler's going to get a credential to get back in the press box at Lambeau anytime soon since he's become a national guy. But the Vikings they know exactly what's going on here, and that Tyler. But Tyler's stuff, you and I both know from the people we talk to, it always backs up. Yeah. And here's Zadarius on record just saying, "This was my experience. I thought I was the guy. Part of the Smith brothers and all that. I hurt my back, and I'm trying to do what I can to get back on the field." And all of a sudden, it seemed like the organization turned their back on me. And the hell with those guys.
Yeah. I agree. What's kind of the gut feeling? I mean, I think to me, the 3 things I'm watching, one is obviously the offensive line, the wide receiving core would be number 2. And I'm watching the performance of special teams, Mike. I know a lot of guys that were trying to make a team that aren't here anymore were really filling in on special teams and trying to make a name for themselves. Now it's real. And now I want to see Bisaccia earn the money.
Yeah, and so you'll see starters as opposed to 3rd, 4th string guys trying to make the team. But I am way past excuses from the organization on special teams, just because of not just what happened in the 49ers debacle, but what's gone on off and on the last 2 or 3, or even going back to 4 years, and Mike McCarthy and Ty Montgomery coming out with the ball rather than taking a knee and giving the ball to Aaron Rodgers so he could go down the field and beat the Rams. It's that kind of stuff. And so as, in terms of Matt LaFleur, I don't call it for Sean Menenga, or young Mo Drayton, who was in here last year. Matt LaFleur has got to take some blame for not being able to understand or recognize, wait a minute, they just put a big defensive end over a light tight end that we've got snapping the football. That guy's got it. And, somebody tell Henry Black, the protector, he's got to take that guy out. I mean, Matt LaFleur needs to take some of the blame on some of those special teams mistakes as well.
Mike, great stuff as always. We'll chat again real soon. I'll see you in Minneapolis for sure, okay?
Thank you, Bill.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later. There you go. That'll do it. 2 hours absolutely positively flew by. A pleasure being down here in Kenosha at Mason's Eatery Pub and Grill. Glad to have you. Thanks to everybody that stopped by. Thanks to all of you listening. Thanks to all of you on the Bud Light live stream who hung with us all night as well. Thanks for all the shout-outs and the hays and all that kind of stuff and the how you doings and savages and flies and everything else that goes along with it. Thanks to our friends at Bud Light as well. It's time for us to get out of here. Have a great night. Woo!